On behalf of the Bangalore Chamber of Industry and Commerce, we welcome each one of you for this new leadership narratives for 2021 and beyond. Are you behind the change, along the change, or ahead of the change? This particular session is being organized under the aegis of the BCIC Leadership Forum, which has been constituted 2 years ago and is doing pretty great initiative on this. We'd like to heartily welcome the speaker for today's session, Mr. Venkat Raman, who has founded the Tirupura Multinational and Global Coaching Lab. May I now request our president, Mr. T.R. Parshuram, who is also president and whole-time director of Toyota Industries India Limited, to kindly do the welcome address and also brief our this participants on the speaker's profile also, sir. Sir, over to you, President, sir.
Thank you, Prithvi. First of all, a very, very good evening to all of you. And I have a great pleasure and privilege in welcoming today's special speaker of the day, Mr. Venkat Raman Subramaniam. Before that, I also acknowledge the august presence of very senior leaders today. Mr. Jayraj, the former Additional Chief Secretary, Energy Department, and who is also our mentor in various forums and architect of our startup. Then Mr. BC Prabhakar, a leading lawyer on labor issues in the country. So hearty welcome to Mr. BC Prabhakar. I think many senior leaders, please accept my special invitation. And today I have very great pleasure in introducing Mr. Venkat Raman Subramaniam, who is an experienced facilitator, coach, and delight in the joy of making others great. His vast experience across Asia in a variety of leadership roles has helped him tailor his engagements across cultures. He is currently leading a number of engagements in the areas of global leadership, development, execution, excellence, sales leadership, women leadership, group coaching, and executive coaching. Venkat is certified through the results coaching methodology and is an ICF accredited coach. He balances his engagements between individual coaching and group coaching sessions. Individual coaching focuses on setting powerful goals in their personal, team, and organizational context and helping the individuals thoughtfully accelerate towards aspirational goals across each of these areas. Group coaching is driven by addressing a business situation within a group and helping them establish trust, clarity, and critical thinking through powerful questions and orchestrating their progress towards their stated goals. So we would not have got a better person today, given the current situation. And all the companies are looking for some kind of breakthroughs, especially in the current situation. And we learned a lot of lessons after the wave one. The corporates, the manufacturing companies, the service sectors, I think the learnings have been tremendous. In fact, let me tell you, the manufacturing sector, we would not have even imagined working from home. Today, it is becoming a kind of a normal, and we are able to see several billions of dollars across the globe, the kind of savings that the pandemic has brought in. At the same time, a lot of new skills in terms of IoT, innovation, machine learning, artificial intelligence, big data, you name anything, the digital blockchain. I think the new skill sets are required to form an integrated manufacturing operation, what the new world is going to look like. And the challenges are also too many in terms of emotional challenges, physical challenges, socio-economic, socio-political challenges, and a lot of issues on the personal front. So I'm sure today's topic is going to be very, very interesting. So just to introduce about the BCIC, we represent the Karnataka state as one of the leading chambers. We have a long history of 44 plus years, and we have almost every big organization, every important medium and small scale sector with us. 850 plus memberships. We have areas of operations, manufacturing, human resource development, ITBT, pharmaceuticals, aviation. I think we are also in several sectoral skills in the National Skill Development Corporation. So we had several deliberations and collaborations with a lot of universities like IIMs, Amrita University, RV College, to name a few, and a lot of startup companies across the country. We're also signing a very active MOU with the Prime Minister's office on the, research and innovation cluster.
Very
And
good.
also we are looking at this coming under the principal scientific advisor. And we are also trying to set up a skill academy of excellence. And we are also trying to open our office in the other countries like Tokyo to
Nice.
bring in garner new investments to the state of Karnataka. So I introduce my colleagues, Mr. Shekhar, who is unfortunately not able to join due to some unavoidable situations. He is heading the Deloitte in India. He is a partner there. And my other colleague is Dr. Ravindran from IIM Calcutta,
Very
IIM
nice.
Ahmedabad. And he is the CEO of, the WealthMax financial institutions. And he's also on the boards of many companies. So we have a lot of thought leaders. Dr. Om Prakash is here. He is the chair of Banking and Finance Committee. Mr. Prabhakar is a mentor to our HR committee and is a veteran on the labor laws, one of the leading lawyers in the country. So we have Mr. Jayraj, who has been the former additional chief secretary, energy, and is mentoring us on the startup programs and several other initiatives. Mr. Vidya Shankar is there, who is the former additional chief secretary of industry and commerce.
Very
He is
good.
the chair of ease of doing business. So Mr. Indu Shekhar is Volvo, head of Volvo, and he is the chair of our MSME council. So I'm sorry that I left some people. I think due to shortage of time. So with these words, I don't want to take much of your time. I once again extend a very hearty welcome to Mr. Venkatraman Subramaniam. Thank you, sir. I also thank Priya for introducing Dr. Venkatraman Subramaniam. In fact, thank you, Priya. Thanks a lot.
Absolutely. Pleasure. Allow me to say good afternoon, good evening. It's an absolute pleasure, right? It's to be here, and thank you so much for hosting me here. Thank you so much for your time and engagement as we spend close to about 45 minutes to an hour together. My intent is to go ahead and ensure that this time that we spend is useful for everybody. There is some element of thoughts that I have put together that I would love to share with all of you. In fact, given if it is Teams, if your bandwidth supports, please feel free to come on video, because that is what enhances the entire engagement. Those of you who your bandwidth allows, be on video. Teams supports multiple video as well. So those are the joys of virtual communication. I can see Indu Shekhar smiling, which is a wonderful thing. Excellent. So let's go ahead and get started. This is my opportunity to understand all of you. Please remember, Parasuraman tells me that you are an eminent group of people. I'm grateful to be in your presence. Allow me to go ahead and run a simple Mentimeter survey with all of you. And this is how you gather feedback from everybody as well. Allow me to share my screen so that I could ask you 3 questions. Indu is already on his mobile saying, okay, Venkat, I'm ready. Look at that, right? So very nice. So allow me to share my screen, and then we can go ahead and get started. You could go ahead and start looking at your screen. Let me know once you're able to see my screen. I want you to go to menti.com. Use that code. So whatever you see on the top, every person could go there and use that code so that we could maximize our time together as well. The best part about COVID times is how virtual collaboration has transformed. Thank you for taking the effort. Market demand and supply outside challenges. Very nice. Sustaining existing sales. Very good. Uncertainty about the future. How to increase business. Very nice. Unemployment. Very good. Love all of your inputs. Consolidating the team. Disruptions in supply chains. Yes, very good. Human capital. Survival to success. Excellent. Online education. Very good. This is a good list. I'm glad so many of you are contributing, which is why I want to go to question number 2, which is to go ahead and look at what is your biggest personal leadership challenge. Each one of you is a leader, and therefore, what's your personal leadership challenge? Thank you so much for taking the time to respond. Communication and staying focused. Somebody is saying, by the time I type this, I've got 2 more emails. Ensuring confidence, stress management, organizing people and working together. How do I change? Very nice. Very nice. How to get the best results in these pandemic times. I like what somebody else has given, being active and healthy. Love that. Okay, let's wait for 2 or 3 more responses, and then we could move forward with the last question, and then we can jump in. Being active and healthy, etc. Very good. Let me move forward. Last question. What was your most valuable leadership lesson last year? What was your most valuable leadership lesson last year? Agility. Excellent. Excellent. I love this. Being humane. Very nice. Persistence. Staying focused. Never wasted. Very nice. Life is too good. Data discipline. More to life than just work. Work from home, flexibility. Empathy. Love that. Love that. Very nice. This is a good list. So thank you so much. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing so that we can go ahead and jump straight in. Right. I'm going to stop presenting right now. So it's a pleasure. In fact, I mean, at the end of this session, I will go ahead and share this with all of you as well, so that you have the opportunity to see as a chamber what exactly are your members telling you, right? So that's something that would be important. Allow me to share a presentation which I have put together. And if you would allow me, I will switch between my presentation and my iPad as we make this conversational. It's my intent that we make this conversational rather than one way as well. Okay. So let me know once you're able to see my presentation. I'm going to go ahead and start off right here. Okay, so we are going to look at some of the new leadership narratives for 2021 while I sat thinking about what is it that I should go ahead and talk to all of you. Because you are a distinguished audience, I decided I will write a poem for all of you. I hope you will indulge me for about 2 or 3 minutes while I read out this poem that I have designed or written for all of you.
Thank you so much.
Pleasure, pleasure. Behold the winds of change. Let me start reading my poem. Ah, the pleasures of the evening zephyr, multiplied by my bottle of kefir. I reflect on the week gone by, grateful for the time to gently lay by. I marvel at the pace of change with its awesome potential to derange. They say the pace of change is relentless. Oh my God, can it really make me clueless? The soul of life beckons within me to listen to the amazing potential that lies within. Fear not of the waves of change. Just accept that you need to change. While the fires of change rage outside, can you discover your stillness inside? Stop listening to the noises of the gull. Start listening to the wisdom of the soul. In silence, you discover your pattern that helps you shape things to happen. They say, go givers, get more. I hope each one of you will now share far more. The winds of change keep blowing. May your greatness keep shining. We want the world to be better through us. Let's get started, else we'll miss the bus. So I just thought I will go ahead and share that poem with all of you. Right? Pleasure. Thank you so much. It gave me a lot of pleasure to go ahead and say, let's celebrate in spite of all of this change that's happening around us. Let's celebrate that inner control that we have, that inner potential that we have within each one of us as leaders to be able to come out and change the world to make a better place. Let me move forward and let's go ahead and talk about a way to look at the future of leadership. In fact, the future of leadership is both sustainable, it includes technology, it embraces the ecosystem, it leverages people. We call it step up leadership, which means when you embrace all of these together, you are able to go ahead and deliver or tap into the unlimited potential that we have within. In fact, when we think about sustainability, right, there are different ways of thinking about sustainability. A very simple way of thinking about sustainability is focusing on the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their needs. That's a very simple way of looking at sustainability. But then I want to go ahead and look at a very simple lens to sustainability, which means it starts with you. Each and every one of you is an accomplished leader, and I want you to discover how sustainable a life that you are leading. With your permission, I'm going to go ahead and take you through a simple exercise. This may take about 7 to 10 minutes. In fact, I do this with every leader that I work with, and it's amazing how much it opens up their minds. I would not let you on to the secret. I would allow you to discover it yourself. All that I would request all of you is to take a book, a pen, and a pencil so that we can get started. I can see Om Prakash searching already. Venkat, he's saying, I only work on my computer. Where is this notebook and pen? Right? Very good. Look at Hindu's ready already. He's saying, Venkat, I'm ready. Very good. Excellent. I'm going to take you through a very simple exercise. This will take about 10 minutes. I just want all of you to go ahead and draw a simple table with 4 columns. Draw a simple table with 4 columns. This is going to be interesting because this is all about you, nothing about me. Okay. Now, the first column, I want you to call it life roles. And there are 10 different roles that you play in life, right? I want you to write down these 10 different roles. So the first one is, of course, sleep. Next is work. Next is family, health, social. This is time you spend with friends. Community. This is time you spend serving others. Then you have me time, which is time you spend with yourself. Self-development, which is how you become a better leader. And then, of course, time spent on your personal finances. And must do are the daily rituals that you need to do every day, right? Brushing your teeth, taking a bath, saying your prayers, whatever. I mean, every person has got their own must do. Sometimes it means dropping off children, etc. What I want each one of you to do is to look back at your last week and then fill up the number of hours. For example, if you have slept on average about 5 hours every day, so 7 into 5 is 35 hours for sleep. Let's say you work 12 hours a day for 5 days, that's 60 hours. So you fill it up. Let me give you about 2 minutes so that you could go ahead and fill this up. Needless to add, honesty is a good policy. If something is 0, please put it 0. There's nothing wrong. I'm not going to call you out. It's your sheet. So I'm going to wait on you. If, let's say, Indu or Mr. Parashuraman says yes, then we can go ahead. If you're finished.
Yeah, done.
Very good. Excellent. Now what I want you to do is to think about your ideal week. If you spend time across these roles in the ideal week, this is when you're saying, hey, life is nirvana, right? If only it could be this way, man, I would be the happiest person on earth. I could see some of you smiling, I wish. Thanks for taking the effort. This is your sheet. Okay. And lastly, do the delta as well, right? Which is the difference between last week and ideal week, whether it's plus or minus, whatever is the delta. Okay. So allow me to go ahead and share a few notes. I mean, the reason I asked each one of you to do this is that you could go ahead and gain your own aha moments. Please remember, the next level of leadership starts with you. And this would go ahead and tell you what exactly are the areas that you need to work on. But having done this exercise as part of my engagement with different leaders, let me talk about three things that most leaders go ahead and learn from all of this. The first thing that people learn is when they total up last week and when they total up ideal week, they will see that there is a difference between the total number of hours in a week, which is 168. So a lot of people come back and say, I have no time, while actually when they look at all of this and total it up, there is enough time, correct? That means that we have the potential to go ahead and plan our time even better. That is one element that comes out very clearly. The second thing, which is quite shocking as well, is the fact that sleep is often compromised. In fact, I mean, there are two incidents that I want to go ahead and tell you. I was doing a sort of a leadership program for Vodafone, right? This is $1 billion circle. And we had the CEO and the leadership team. And as is the normal, everybody was, the introductions were to say, hey, tell me something about yourself that nobody knows about. So everybody was introducing themselves. Finally, it came to the CEO and he said, the one thing nobody knows about me is that I sleep 8 hours a day. Now, all the VPs were now nodding, saying, no wonder I don't get any sleep. Right? But of course, they didn't say it out then. That is one thing, which is to say the best of leaders spend 7 to 8 hours of sleep every day. If you have getting lesser sleep, think about getting sleep because that aids your leadership. The last thing that we observe is what we call the sacrifice of health. Right? Please remember the mind and the body are deeply connected. For a lot of people, they go ahead and take health for granted. Right? And the reason that I say that is that when I go back and query leaders on saying, when you say health, what exactly do you do? They go ahead and say, I go out for a walk. Now, please remember, a lot of people equate health with comfort and convenience. In your case, because each one of you is a greater future leader, my request of you is to think about 5 elements of health, which is all about strength, endurance, flexibility, breadth, and balance. I'll repeat that. Strength, endurance, flexibility, breadth, and balance. And let me take a minute to explain why I'm saying that. Remember, I've said the body and the mind are deeply connected. So here in this case, the flexibility of the body is equivalent to flexibility of the mind. So let's say you are in an inverted posture, right? That helps you to think differently, because in this day and age, each leader is expected to innovate. And innovation comes from thinking differently, comes from reframing whatever is the present. So how do you use your body to aid your mind is what you need to think of. The best part about all of us as Indians is that we have the gift of yoga. Yoga is one form of exercise that covers all of these 5 different elements. In fact, there is a saying, 8 minutes of Surya Namaskar is equivalent to 30 minutes on the treadmill. So, which means you can actually save time and drive your leadership as well. So if there is one foundational element of leadership that is changing, is taking care of your health, sleeping well, and managing and balancing your different roles much better. I just wanted to take a pause here. I can see many of you are thinking. If there are certain questions, I would love to address those questions as well before we move forward.
Sir, what according to you would be ideal week hours?
Ideal week hours, I would say, if we all of us have 168 hours, Om Prakash, right? So we need to go ahead and look at how do we balance those 168 hours. In a lot of cases, if your totals are lesser, then you could look at where can I spend the time which gives me my maximum ROTI, as we call it, which is return on time invested or return on thinking invested. So in some cases, one of the elements that I've seen most leaders go ahead and invest time in is in self-development. Because what they're realizing is that if I'm not spending at least an hour per day learning, then I'm already on the path to irrelevance. That is what is happening. So there is a lot more focus on self-development, where one of the elements that leaders are building, Om Prakash, is what I call peripheral intelligence. It's called peripheral intelligence, which means, am I able to understand what's happening externally and then connect the dots to what is happening internally? I'll give you an example, Om Prakash. So one of the things that leaders are saying is, hey, we are living in this VUCA world that's become a cliche right now, volatile, uncertain, complex, ambiguous. It has become so cliche. But what leaders are now looking at is to say, when we go ahead and think about this VUCA world, how much of customer insights and customer foresights am I getting in? How much of competition insights and competition foresights are we getting into the system? Those are the elements that they are looking at, because one of the things that leaders struggle with, Om Prakash, is a certain level of incestual reviews. There are too much of internal reviews in organizations, not much of external perspective coming in. So to your question about where are they spending the time, they are spending their time on self-development, building up their peripheral intelligence, and helping to connect the dots from external market to internal actions. That's what they're doing. Excellent question, Om Prakash.
Thank you.
Yeah. Other questions before we move forward?
If any questions are requested, kindly to raise your hand so that we could unmute.
Definitely. Thanks, Prithvi.
Thanks, sir. Thank you, sir.
Anybody else? Okay.
Yeah.
So if not, let me go ahead and stop sharing. I want to share a few more perspectives as well. Let me come back and share my other screen, right, which is primarily as part of my iPad, where I want to go ahead and share with you how are leaders thinking about managing in this new normal. Are all of you able to see my iPad right now?
Yes.
Yeah, excellent. Now, when leaders think about managing in this normal, there is a certain way in which they are thinking about this. This normally relates to what we call as a hockey stick, right? This is how they are thinking about managing right now. So there are three areas in this hockey stick. The first thing that leaders are thinking about is this area, which is called surviving the present. That's the first thing leaders are looking at. How do I survive this present? There is this new wave of COVID that is hitting us. How exactly will we survive? The second thing that leaders are looking at is this second element, which is called accelerating the rise. Accelerating the rise. So everybody knows in about 6 to 18 months, there is going to be an inevitable rise that is going to happen. How do we capitalize on this rise? And in fact, the third thing that leaders are looking at is this segment here, which is called maximizing market opportunity. Maximizing market opportunity. So in a way, leaders are thinking across what I call Horizon 1, Horizon 2, and Horizon 3. Correct? And for each of these horizons, what leaders are doing is to go ahead and say, hey, what are my top 3 initiatives to survive the present? What are my top 3 initiatives to accelerate the rise? And what are the top 3 initiatives to maximize market opportunity? And the reason they're resolving it to 3 is because each of these leaders know that they can only do 3 things with excellence. In fact, anything beyond 3 slips into mediocrity as well. So which is why they limit themselves to 3, which means 3 horizons, 3 initiatives, and then the best part about these initiatives, and this is something I hope will be useful for all of you, is to craft these initiatives into what I call the critical thinking framework. Critical thinking framework. So most of the leaders understand that human beings, we go ahead and talk in high level abstractions, which is why they go ahead and structure strategies in such a way that everybody is clear about what it is. And that framework starts like this: achieve, what, by, how, and why, from X to why by when. Right? They provide a structure, they use a structure, and this kind of a structure is what allows them to dive deeper. It also allows them to discover far more of their organization. I'm going to go ahead and open it out to all of you. Remember, I've highlighted what, how, why, X, Y, and when. Can one of you tell me which is the most important for leaders? Anybody could raise your hand and tell me. Which is the most important for leaders? Okay.
The how piece.
The how piece. Okay. Thanks for sharing, Indushekar. Anybody else who would like to take a guess? Okay. So
What?
let me, sorry, what is it, Parshuraman? Okay.
It's the why.
Say that
It's the
again,
why.
Parshuraman.
Yeah, what piece I think is
Okay. Very good. In fact, the one
prioritization.
thing, yeah, the one thing that is most important for leaders, please remember when we talk about the what is the goal they want to achieve. When we think about the how are the strategies to achieve the goal, correct? The why is the most important piece because the why is the meaning, it's the motivation, and the mojo that is important, correct? It's the meaning, motivation, and mojo. Let's say I'm working with Om Prakash, correct? I'm working as part of his team. The why becomes more important because if I can't find my why in driving the goal, I am not going to put in my discretionary effort into achieving the what. Correct? So leaders can set the goal, they can define the strategies. Unless they discover every person in the leadership team and their why, nothing is going to happen. In fact, if only you have the what and the how and the measures and the date, all that will happen is primarily looking at passive aggression within the system. You will see people within your team saying, yes, yes, we will do, but nothing happens. So the most important in all of this is to discover the why, is to get the other person to articulate why does this goal mean something to you. Correct? So let's say with Mr. Parshuraman and Toyota, we are saying, hey, we want to go ahead and drive Industry 4.0, or we want to go ahead and drive Internet of Things. Why is it important for you is something that people need to articulate as well. That's something that's extremely important. I just want to take a pause here. I'm sure each one of you is a business leader. You're thinking in these dimensions. If there are any questions, I would love to take some questions.
Yeah, hi. I just want to check, don't you think the 4W2H model itself is pretty much more clearer? Of course, goal setting is the primary, but after that, others follow.
Absolutely. I mean, this is the highest level of detail, Thiago. And of course, I mean, there will always be level order planning as we move it down different layers of the organization. The only point that I'm making is that in this period of change, if we don't discover and ask for the why, all of the strategies will not go ahead and translate into results. That was the only point that I was making here. Of course, the ability to define this at the organization level, do level order planning to bring it down to different layers of the organization is still valid.
Sure.
Yeah.
Thiago is our past president.
Excellent.
He's the vice
Excellent.
chairman of Sona Group of Institutions. And he is a think tank. I think he comes out with so much of, big ideas to our board.
Pleasure,
Always,
pleasure. Pleasure to go ahead and see you,
all the
Thiago.
time in 180 degrees.
Thank you. Thank you for the practical class. I think it's very practical and very, I think to the point you're addressing. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Thiago. Thank you. There are a few other things that I wanted to share as well. Now, remember when we went ahead and talked about what is your personal leadership challenge? A lot of you went ahead and said, how do I manage change? How do I manage time, etc. So this is one element of thinking at the organizational level. Now, when you think about working across multiple horizons, we definitely need to go ahead and work with people. Now, when you work with people and start driving change within people, there is going to be resistance to change. Right? The first thing that leaders need to understand is what exactly is the resistance. In fact, there are 5 levels of resistance that we need to be aware of. Right? So when we think about resistance, we call it FUD-C. It's called FUD-C. Anybody who can hazard a guess what is FUD-C? Om Prakash is saying, I have no clue, Venkat, right? You have to tell. So when there is a change initiative, please remember there is always resistance, correct? Whether it's the resistance at the surface or resistance below. The 5 levels of resistance. One is fear. The second is uncertainty. Third is doubt. The fourth is very interesting. It's called skepticism. And the fifth one is inertia. These are the 5 things that people go ahead and resist. Correct? So each one of you is an accomplished leader. If indeed you want to drive change, you want to drive transformation within your business, you need to go ahead and think about what are my plans to overcome the 5 elements of resistance. That is the key, right? So every time that we work in teams, we have to really find out what gets their amygdala hijacked. What is that element of fear? Where exactly is the uncertainty in the strategy? What are their doubts about execution? What is their skepticism about leadership? And what is their inertia that is holding them? Correct? Indeed, if we are able to go ahead and solve for all of these, that is when we are able to get measurable progress. Now, let me ask each one of you a question. Of all the different ways that you can go ahead and solve for resistance, there is one amazing way which delivers the best results. Can somebody tell me what is the best way to dissolve resistance? I'm now looking at Thiago and saying, Thiago, you have to say it now.
Is it motivation and self-belief?
Motivation and self-belief. Good try, Thiago. Who else? Anybody else? What is the best way to overcome resistance?
Is it confidence?
Confidence. One more person who could tell me.
Rupa, you can unmute Lavanya and Arnakar Mission.
Mr. Parshuraman, you're on mute.
Is it communication?
Communication. All of you are right. In fact, these are all different ways in which we can do this. But the one way that is proven
lead by example.
Lead by example, Arunakar, good. Right? The one way that we have found that works best within organizations is something called coaching. how do you coach people to overcome the inherent resistance? And this is where it is important to understand a little bit about human beings, right? When we think about human beings, please remember this very famous iceberg principle, where we said 10% is visible, 90% is invisible. What we see on the visible part of human beings are their actions, are their behaviors, and are their positions. So when you try and change what is visible, it is not going to happen. So as leaders, we need to go ahead and solve for what is invisible, which is all of their beliefs, all of their biases, what are their assumptions, what are their experiences, their expectations, their realities, etc. Right? So when we start driving change within organizations, don't drive change at what is on the visible part of individuals and teams. Change happens when you go ahead and address the invisible part. The invisible part is what creates that resistance within people. And only when we solve for the resistance can we go ahead and drive change within organizations as well. Right? Does that make sense, Indushekar?
Yep.
Yeah? Very nice. Very nice. So there is one more important element, right? The good news about all of this is that I have this opportunity of working with a lot of leaders around coaching. Now, if coaching is so powerful, every person has got a different view of coaching. Now, each and every one of you is a great leader. I just want to go ahead and share a simple way in which all of you can understand coaching so that we don't mistake coaching for something else, right? So when we think about coaching, let me talk about how people work together. When we have people working, we can either go ahead and ask some questions or tell people something. We can either focus on the problem or we can focus on the solution. So let's say I'm looking at the bottom right-hand quadrant. If I tell people the solution to go ahead and say, how do you become number one in your market? If I tell you the solution, this quadrant is called mentoring. In fact, this is where we go ahead and tell everybody from our experience as well. The bottom left-hand quadrant, where we tell people the problem, this is a multi-billion-dollar business worldwide, and it's a thriving business. This is called consulting. I will tell you your problems. Please pay me lots of money. Right? This is where a lot of companies make a lot of money. Right? They give you the problem and they go away. Right? The top left-hand quadrant, where you ask questions about the problem. Maybe I'm working with Tiago and I'm saying, Tiago, what kinds of problems you may have? Tiago is pouring his heart out to Venkat. This is called therapy, right? Sometimes we call it counseling as well. Now, when you ask questions so that you can get the other person to discover their own solution, this is called coaching. So in a very primitive way, giving people the fish is called mentoring. Teaching people how to fish is called coaching. That is the key. Now, when I go ahead and work with leaders, one of the challenges that I pose to them is to say, is 50% of your team better than you? Correct? because unless they build their leaders to be better than them, they cannot become even greater leaders. So that is the key. And the best way to build the next generation of leaders is to go ahead and make them what we call independent achievers, right? And the clue to making them independent achievers lies here. Okay, Arunakar, you have a question.
No, I do not have a question. I think it is somehow remaining there. Yeah.
Very nice. Very nice.
I have one question but it will be a little tangential.
No problem, please.
Okay. See, over a period, we have all these methods of leadership. We have found many ways of quantifying many things. But there are leaders who do not talk of any of these. You just stay with a leader, and communications are different. It is qualitative communication. So that is a different perhaps domain. How big leaders, there is a saying in Sanskrit, when you do not understand what to do and where to go, then there is a saying, Mahajano yena gata sapantha. Just follow the leader and you will go to the right path. Anyway,
Beautiful.
please continue. Please continue.
No, beautiful, Arunakar. That triggers in me a thought, which I want to share with all of you as to the 4 kinds of organizations which exist right now. And let me go ahead and tell you what are those 4 kinds of organizations. Now, you will discover what is the organization you went ahead and described right now. So there are 4 kinds of organization. The first kind of organization is called a jungle. The second kind of organization is called a family. Third kind of organization is called a factory. And the fourth kind of organization is called a temple. Now, which one are you referring to, Arunakar?
Okay. I am referring to maybe, I don't know, temple. How did Vivekananda? Actually, I don't know. Vivekananda's guru did not tell him much, but he became a leader.
Correct. Correct. So, I mean, thank you for sharing, Arunakar. What you are mentioning here is that the temple, normally within organizations, we have this very, very charismatic leader. This person who is the thought leader, his word or her word is what matters. Correct? So there are lots of organizations which are built around what we call the high priest. Right? The high priest is the thought leader. The high priest is the person who goes ahead and delivers everything. Right? So if you think about organizations, I'm sure you will come up with different types of organizations where you have a high priest. Right? Now, a lot of startups start here. They start as a jungle. Jungle means there are no processes. It's all free and fluid, and everybody works in a certain way. There is
Banana Republic.
But then, when you say Banana Republic, Parshuraman, I want to go ahead and talk about one organization. In fact, there are multiple organizations which look like a jungle, but they are among the best in the world. Can one of you name one organization which is actually a jungle, but the fact is it's among the most valuable companies on the planet?
Google.
Thank you. Thank you. Beautiful. That's what it is. So the fact is, while most of the organizations start as a jungle, then they become a family, then it becomes a factory, and then the factory stops working because we become too bureaucratic, right? What is really happening now, the counterintuitive nature of growth is that we are going back to the jungle. right? Remember, counterintuitive meaning the fact is the opposite of the belief. So what is happening now is that this control structure and process and everything else which stifles people within silos is all getting released, because people now need to be agile. Innovation becomes key. Decision making needs to be fast, and market agility is what is most important. So in a way, you need to be thinking about how many jungles am I creating within my organization, right? And remember, the jungle has got a frame as well. So it's not that everybody does whatever they want, right? But it is within a frame, right? So I just wanted to pause here. I'm sure each one of you is now thinking, where does my organization fit? Are we a factory, but it's actually a jungle? Or are we a family who thinks this is a temple? Right?
It's the
Anybody?
reality of probably many organizations. They transform from one form to another with the change of leadership.
True.
See, that's where, the dynamic activities happen. And, the people always try to find the true north. That's another challenge in a typical corporates. The type of leadership brings so much of challenges. Of course, it is for the prosperity.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thanks for sharing, Parshuraman. In fact, because this is a brilliant audience, I want to go ahead and bring my perspectives and go ahead and share with you one simple framework. And it's my belief that when you use this framework well, it will unleash far more growth within all of your organizations. Now, I'm going to go ahead and share this framework. It starts with a kindergarten framework, which is called SWOT. Now, all of you know this kindergarten framework. I can see some of you are even yawning, saying, Venkat, this is really kindergarten, right? So let me go ahead and write this down. Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. Now remember, I want to go ahead and make this an adult framework for all of you. And I want you to think about this adult framework from today onwards for your organizations. So when you go ahead and think about strengths, I want you to think about under leveraged strength. When you think about weaknesses, I want you to think about unaddressed weaknesses. When you think about opportunities, I want you to think about underexploited opportunities. And when you think about threats, think about underappreciated threats. In fact, I do this with the largest of organizations in the world. And it is amazing when they start thinking about the unknown. That is when they realize there is far more to life. There is far more opportunity that exists within the organization. I want to take a pause here. I can see Mr. Parshuraman thinking.
I just wanted to clear one. Everything is quite clear except underappreciated threats. What does that mean?
Underappreciated threats. It means that there are threats in the horizon that we are missing.
Like Corona?
Corona is unexpected threat, not an underappreciated threat. Underappreciated threat may be the threat that technology can pose.
Like a technological obsolescence can be one underappreciated threat. Like a Canon, when the digital camera came into existence, they lost overnight the business. that kind of a transformation.
Correct.
Absolutely. So that is one underappreciated thread. The other underappreciated thread that I see within organizations is called culture. A lot of leaders don't have a pulse on the culture of the organization. Correct? They don't realize, am I building the culture for the future? Am I building a culture that has a growth mindset? Am I building a culture of innovation? Right? Those are all different elements that are required. So intrinsically, they understand, but their actions do not follow this awareness. So
And this
that's
could
why we
mean
call it underappreciated threats.
this could be very critical for a family-run business, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Which is why what we need to go ahead and think about for this underappreciated threat, an exercise that you can go ahead and do along with your organization, is to do what I call black hat thinking. Black hat thinking. Which means when you have these team meetings, get people to say, why will we be unsuccessful? Please remember that human beings are poised to be optimistic. We are tuned to be optimistic. So in meetings, go ahead and ask them, why will we be unsuccessful? It's called black hat thinking.
6 thinking hats, 7.
Absolutely. So the moment we consciously think about the black hat, that is when we start looking at risks. And remember, progress is the systematic elimination of risk. So in organizations, in meetings, how are we creating a culture where we hear the bad news, we assess the risks, and we ensure that we are able to build a plan to mitigate those risks. What I want to go ahead and tell all of you is that we could continue on and on, but the fact is I have been given an hour. I'm hoping that this hour has been useful for all of you as we thought through different perspectives on how organizations are managing, how they are overcoming resistance, how they are looking at a deeper level of their own organizations and their environment as well. I just want to take a pause here. I'm happy to take any questions that you may have. If not, right, allow me to go ahead and say thank you for each one of you. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your engagement. Thank you for your commitment. And thank you for caring to be engaged and caring to ask these questions. I would only go ahead and say it's been my pleasure and privilege to be addressing all of you. I know that within each one of you lies a greater leader. My request of all of you is to absorb what you have learned, apply it so that your leadership can transform the world. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you. Thank you very much, sir. Actually, for the benefit of the participants, Mr. Venkatraman is addressing from Singapore.
Absolutely. Pleasure.
Wow.
And maybe Mr. Venkatraman, we can connect with you through LinkedIn or something like that. So
100%, as long as you're okay to go ahead and put up with a number of videos that I keep posting now and then, then it's fine. It would be my pleasure. All of my contact details are on LinkedIn as well. It would be my pleasure to sustain the connection and to go ahead and follow this dream of making everybody else greater.
For the benefit of our organization to do better programs, we have just posted a feedback. Request kindly the participants to post your feedback so that we'll improve upon.
So I also recognize the past president, Mr. Ahmed Ali, the very senior mentor from Bangalore Chambers, Mr. Arnakar Mishra, who was talking to you, the chair of our aviation committee.
Very
He's
nice.
a friend from the Hindustan Aeronauticals. Thank you, sir.
Right.
Mr. Ahmadali would like to say something. He is a mentor in human resources, capital, and he is a very, very senior thought leader. Mr.
Excellent.
Ahmadali would like to say something. You have to unmute, sir. Sir, you have to unmute.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes. Thank you.
I'm sorry. I just I was out and I just arrived, got back, and I logged in now. So I've not had the background. I will make a comment later if I want to, but carry on. All the very best. Yeah.
Thank you. I think you can see the kind of recorded message. We'll put it on the website.
I'll do that.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Ahmadali. Sir, we're very thankful to you. I think you have taken us to the pinnacle and you have left us there. We're wondering what to do. It's very uncertain for all of us. You have taken us to a point and we are wondering, it's like a parachute dropping. So that's the kind of feeling that, it's amazing 45-minute session. I think you have opened new avenues of creativity, innovation, thought leadership, and self-introspection, I would say. Yeah, thank you so much. I think it has been a wonderful evening, very well spent, and I'm sure this is the beginning of our journey. And many of our members would like to keep in touch with you. And definitely, I look forward to your continued association.
Absolutely.
Today, you touched upon very, very important aspects of life. I think the very purpose of life you touched upon, and the why portion, which is very, very important. I think the starting of a huge revolution.
Yes.
And I think the 4 quadrants is something amazing. So I always talk about Johari window. So it reminds me of that similar 4 quadrants. So I think organizations can learn a lot through your thought leadership and management lessons. And in fact, I requested him to talk on the post-COVID pandemic era. He has really taught us the fishing instead of getting us the fish. He has really taught us the fishing. He doesn't limit you to post-pandemic. You can apply this on any kind of complicated issues the humanity is facing. Thank you, Mr. Venkatraman Subramaniam, for the wonderful evening session. And again, on behalf of Bangalore Chamber of Industry and Commerce, I would like to sincerely thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Absolutely.
In fact,
it's been my absolute pleasure.
So we look forward to the continued association, and we also invite you to Chamber of Industry and Commerce at a very comfortable timing. So we look forward. And thank you, Mr. Prasad, for all the support.
So thank you, President, sir, for compiling the nice. So as of now, we know that we are on the virtual mode. I request Venkat sir to unmute your screen, sir. We like to share your virtual memento to be handed over to you.
Oh yes, I love this.
Yeah.
Right, everything is virtual nowadays.
Very shortly. For the time being, it's virtual.
Yeah, it's virtual, and we'll ensure that it's delivered to your office.
Definitely. You
can just go ahead.
Definitely. Thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure. Allow me to say, have a wonderful evening. Have a good rest of the weekend. And let's all say our prayers for everybody, for the country to come out of this COVID challenge. And let's all rededicate ourselves to making our country even greater. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
Pleasure. Pleasure.
Rupa, you're sharing? May now request for the national anthem. I request all of you kindly stand up.
जनगण मन अधिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड़ उत्कल बंगा विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उज्जल जलधिकरंगा तव शुभ नामे जागे तव शुभ आशीष मांगे गाहे तव जय गाथा जन गण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे
Thank you to one and all.
Thank you very much. Have a wonderful evening and take care.
Thank you.
Stay safe. Thank you.
Great weekend, Saturday, Sunday.
Thanks a lot. Thank you.